Ambassador Lisa Rodriguez walked through the massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber. Her black shoes clicked against the smooth metal floor as she moved toward the human section. The room was huge, bigger than any building on Earth. Curved. Walls rose up like a giant bowl, with seats arranged in circles that went up and up until they almost touched the ceiling. She had been coming to this place for 3 years now. 3 long years of trying to make the aliens listen to human concerns. 3 years of watching them ignore everything she said. Today felt different, though. Today, something inside her chest felt tight and angry. The Vorthic representative was already speaking. His voice came through the translation device as a vice. Low rumble. Lisa looked at him with disgust. The creature looked like a giant lizard walking on 2 legs. His scales were dark green, and his yellow eyes never seemed to blink. The mining dispute in the Kepler system is a minor issue, the Vorthic said. Humans must understand their place in the galaxy. They are new here. They have much to learn about how things work. Lisa's hands formed fists in her lap. The Kepler system had 3 human colonies. Families lived there. Children played in the parks that human engineers had built. Now alien corporations wanted to strip mine the planets. They wanted to destroy everything humans had created. She stood up from her seat. Representative Zektar, those are human worlds. We have lived there for 20 years. You cannot simply take them from us. The Vorthic turned his huge head toward her. His mouth opened to show rows of sharp teeth. Humans forget their status. The Council has decided. The Zephyrian Consortium has legal claim to those worlds. Legal claim? Lisa's voice got louder. Based on what law? Laws that were written before humans even knew other species existed. A sound like hissing came from the Zephyrian section. The blue-skinned aliens moved their tentacle arms in what Lisa had learned meant amusement. They thought this was funny. Council Chairman Veltar struck his ceremonial staff against the floor. The sound echoed through the chamber. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms. His species, the hegemony, had run the council for over 200 years. Ambassador Rodriguez will speak only when recognized, he said in his cold voice. The council will now vote on Resolution 4471. All those in favor of granting mining rights to the Zephyrian Consortium. Lisa watched as lights began appearing on the voting board. Green lights meant yes. Red lights meant no. She counted them. As they appeared, green, green, more green lights than she could count quickly. The Altarian delegate hesitated. Their lights stayed yellow for a long moment. Lisa felt a tiny bit of hope. Maybe someone would vote with the humans. Maybe someone cared about fairness. Then their light turned green too. The vote is 847 in favor, 1 opposed. Chairman Veltar announced. Resolution 4471 passes. The Zephyrian Consortium may begin operations immediately. Lisa felt something break inside her chest. The one opposing vote had been the human vote. Her vote, out of 848 species in the council, only humans had voted to protect human colonies. She stood up again. This time, she did not ask for permission to speak. For 3 years, I have come to this chamber, she said. Her voice carried clearly through the room. For 3 years, I have tried to work with you. I have followed your rules. I have respected your traditions. I have asked nicely for basic fairness. The chamber was getting quiet. Even the Zephyrians stopped their hissing sounds. You vote to destroy our homes. You take our resources. You treat us like children who should be grateful for whatever scraps you give us. Lisa's voice was getting stronger now. You make laws that benefit everyone except humans. When we object, you tell us to learn our place. Chairman Veltar struck. His staff again. Ambassador Rodriguez, you are out of order. Return to your seat. No, Lisa said simply. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of as many aliens as she could. I will not return to my seat. I will not follow your orders anymore. The United Earth Federation is done with this council. A strange noise filled the chamber. It took Lisa a moment to realize it was the sound of hundreds of different species all talking at once. Some sounded angry. Some sounded confused. Some sounded scared. The United Earth Federation hereby withdraws from the Galactic Council, Lisa continued, speaking over the noise. All trade agreements are ended. All defense pacts are cancelled. All diplomatic protocols are terminated. We are done with all of you. She reached into her jacket and pulled out her diplomatic credentials. The small device contained all her access codes and identification. She placed it on the podium in front of her seat. Humans will no longer pretend that this council represents justice or fairness. We will no longer waste our time begging you to treat us as equals. The human delegation began standing up. There were 12 of them, representing different human colonies and Earth itself. One by one, they placed their credentials on their seats and began walking toward the exit. The chamber erupted in chaos. Aliens were shouting in dozens of languages. Some were standing up. Others were pointing at the humans. Chairman Veltar was striking his staff over and over, but no one was listening to him. Lisa walked slowly toward the exit. She did not hurry. She did not look back. Behind her, she could hear representatives demanding to know what this meant. She could hear others asking if humans could actually leave the council. As she reached the door, she turned around one last time. The chamber was full of confusion and noise. For the first time in 3 years, the aliens were not ignoring humans. You wanted us to know our place, she said, her voice cutting through the chaos. Now you will learn yours. The doors closed behind the human delegation with a soft hiss. Lisa felt lighter than she had in years. For the first time since becoming an ambassador, she had told the aliens exactly what she thought of them. Behind them, the Galactic Council faced something that had never happened before in 500 years of history. A member species had walked away, and they had done it with dignity, strength, and absolutely no fear. The galaxy would never be the same. President Jake Murphy sat in his office in Washington, D.C., looking at the reports coming in from all over human space. It had been 3 days since Ambassador Rodriguez walked out of the Galactic Council. 3 days since humanity had cut all ties with the alien government. The reports were not what he had expected. The first report came from Admiral Mancy Bell. She stood at attention in front of his desk, her uniform crisp and clean. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her blue eyes were serious. Sir, all human ships have been recalled from Council space, she said. The aliens are starting to panic. They keep sending messages asking us to come back. They want to negotiate. Jake leaned back in his chair. What kind of panic are we talking about, Admiral? Trade routes, sir. 30% of all galactic trade goes through human space stations. Without our waypoints, ships are getting lost. Some trade routes are completely shut down now. Jake smiled for the first time in days. Good. Maybe now they understand that. Humans are not just decoration in their galaxy. Another report came from the Economic Council. The numbers were interesting. Human colonies produced rare earth metals that the aliens needed for their technology. Human farms grew food that fed dozens of alien worlds. Human engineers had built power plants and water systems on council planets. They need us more than we need them, Jake said to himself. On the other side of the galaxy, Captain Ryan Torres was piloting his cargo ship through the last human trade route in council space. His ship, the Destiny, was loaded with medical supplies. The blue-skinned Altarians had been hit by a terrible plague. Without human medicine, thousands would die. Ryan's communication system crackled to life. Human vessel, this is Altair Control. Please respond. This is Captain Torres of the Destiny. What do you need? Captain, we know your government has ended relations with the Council, but our people are dying. We need those medical supplies. Ryan looked at his cargo manifest. The medicine in his hold could save lives, but his orders were clear. All trade with Council species was ended. I'm sorry, Altair Control. I have my orders. This is the last human ship that will enter Council space. The voice on the radio sounded desperate. Captain, please. We have children dying. Can you not make an exception? Ryan felt bad for them, but orders were orders. I'm sorry. If you want human help, you need to talk to my government directly. The Council cannot speak for you anymore. He changed course and headed for the nearest human space station. Behind him, the Altarian world grew smaller and smaller. On the planet Kepler 442b, engineer Katie Morrison was shutting down the massive fusion reactors that powered the capital city. The reactors were human-built and human-designed. The local aliens, called Keplerians, had never learned how to operate them. They had always hired human contractors to do the work. A Keplerian official approached her. He was tall and thin with purple skin and large black eyes. His name was something Katie could not pronounce, so she called him Phil. Engineer Morrison, you cannot shut down the reactors, Phil said. His voice was high and worried. The city needs power. Our hospitals need power. Our children need power. Katie looked at him sadly. Phil, my contract is with the Galactic Council. The Council hired my company to run these reactors. Since Earth is no longer part of the Council, my contract is void. But the city will go dark, Phil pleaded. We do not know how to run the reactors ourselves. You had 20 years to learn, Katie said. You chose not to. You thought humans would always be here to do the work for you. She finished entering the shutdown sequence. One by one, the great machines began powering down. The hum that had filled the reactor chamber for 2 decades slowly faded to silence. What do we do now? Phil asked. Katie picked up her toolbox and headed for the door. You learn to do it yourself, or you ask Earth for help directly. But this time, you ask as equals, not as masters giving orders to servants. Meanwhile, in the new Austin system, the Zephyrian Consortium was preparing to take control of the human colony world. Their fleet of mining ships approached the planet, expecting to find scared colonists ready to evacuate. Instead, they found Captain Steve Adams waiting for them with the UES Defender and 3 other human warships. The orbital defense platforms that had been simple communication relays just days ago were now bristling with weapons. Zephyrian vessels. This is Captain Adams of the United Earth Defense Force. You are entering human space without permission. Turn around and leave immediately. The Zephyrian commander responded with arrogance. Human, the Council has granted us legal claim to this world. Your people must evacuate within 48 hours. Steve looked at his tactical display. The Zephyrian ships were big, but they were designed for mining, not fighting. Commander, let me make this very clear. Earth no longer recognizes Council authority. This is human space, and you are trespassing. Leave now or be removed. You cannot threaten us, human. We have the law on our side. Your law died when we left the Council, Steve replied. This is our law now. The Zephyrian commander hesitated. In 500 years of Council history, no species had ever stood up to legal claims like this. Species always backed down when faced with official documents and legal pressure. We will report this to the Council, the commander said finally. You do that, Steve answered. Tell them that humans don't take orders anymore. The Zephyrian fleet turned around and left. On New Austin, the colonists cheered. For the first time in months, they felt safe in their own homes. Back on Nexus Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Council, Chairman Veltar was facing the worst crisis in Council history. Representatives from dozens of species were demanding emergency meetings. The Nexus Stock Exchange had crashed. Trade was grinding to a halt. Power grids were failing on worlds that depended on human engineers. How did we not see this coming? Demanded the Rigelian trade representative. How did we not know that? Humans were so important to our economy. Veltar had no answer. For centuries, the Council had seen humans as useful but replaceable. They were good workers and clever inventors, but they were just one species among hundreds. Now, with humans gone, the Council was discovering just how much they had depended on human innovation and human labor. "We must bring them back," said the Centauri ambassador. "We must negotiate." "Humans do not negotiate," Veltar replied coldly. "They make demands and expect us to obey. We cannot show weakness." But even as he spoke, Veltar knew the truth. The humans were not the weak ones anymore. The Council was. And for the first time in his long life, the proud chairman of the Galactic Council was genuinely afraid of what would happen next. The galaxy was changing, and the old rules no longer applied. 2 months had passed since the humans left the Galactic Council. The situation was getting worse every day. On Altair, the plague was spreading faster than ever. Without human medicine, entire cities were dying. The blue-skinned Altarians were beginning to panic. Senator Quindle stood in the council chamber, his forearms shaking with anger and fear. "My people are dying while we sit here arguing about politics," he said. "Thousands of children are dead because we were too proud to treat humans fairly." Chairman Veltar looked down at him with cold eyes. "The humans will return when they realize they cannot survive alone. We must be patient." "Patient?" Quindle's voice cracked. "How can I be patient when my own daughter is sick with this plague? When my wife cries every night because there is no medicine?" Other representatives were nodding. The Keplerians were still sitting in darkness because they could not run their own power plants. Food riots had started on 3 different worlds that had depended on human farming techniques. The galactic economy was falling apart. But it was Security Director Zaxton who proposed a solution that would change everything. The giant Vortex stood up on his powerful legs, his scales gleaming under the chamber lights. "The problem is simple," he said in his deep, rumbling voice. "Humans think they can survive without the Council. They think they are strong because they have some new technology. We must show them they are wrong." The chamber grew quiet. Everyone knew what Zaxton was suggesting. "A military demonstration," he continued. "Not to destroy them, but to show them our power. They are one species against hundreds. When they see our combined fleet, they will understand that resistance is hopeless." Senator Quindle jumped to his feet. "Are you insane? You want to start a war with the humans? They have done nothing but defend their own territory." "They have attacked the galactic economy," Zaxton replied. "They have caused suffering across dozens of worlds." "This is already war, Senator. We just have not admitted it yet." Other voices joined the argument. The Rigelian trade representative supported Zaxton. "My shipping companies are losing billions every day. Something must be done." The Centauri ambassador disagreed. "This is madness. We know nothing about human military capabilities. They might be stronger than we think." "They are primitives," Zaxton said with contempt. "They have been in space for less than a century. What could they possibly have that threatens the combined fleet?" The debate went on for hours. In the end, fear won over wisdom. The Council voted to authorize the largest military force in galactic history. 200 ships from 7 different species would travel to human space and demand surrender. Admiral Kredhas of the Hegemony was chosen to command the fleet. He was old and experienced, with gray skin marked by battle scars from the Centauri Wars. As he prepared his ships, he felt confident. Humans were clever, but they were not warriors. They would see the massive fleet and give up without a fight. 3 weeks later, the combined fleet entered the Sol system. Earth hung in space like a blue and white jewel, surrounded by space stations and defense platforms. Admiral Kredhas was impressed despite himself. For such a young species, humans had built impressive structures, but he was more impressed by what was waiting for them. The entire Earth Defense Force was arranged in battle formation between the fleet and Earth. Admiral Nancy Bell commanded 50 human ships, each one sleek and deadly looking. Human fleet. This is Admiral Kredhas of the Galactic Council combined. Fleet. You are ordered to surrender immediately. Your government must return to Council authority and accept all previous agreements. Admiral Bell's response came back quickly. Council Fleet, this is Admiral Bell of the Earth Defense Force. You have entered human space without permission. You have 30 minutes to leave. This is your only warning. Kredhas laughed. 50 ships against 200. The humans were either very brave or very stupid. Admiral Bell, you are outnumbered 4-1. Surrender now, and your people will be treated with mercy. Admiral Kredhas, you are counting ships. We are counting graves. You have 29 minutes. Something in her voice made Kredhas pause. There was no fear there, no doubt, only cold determination. He opened a channel to his science officer. What do our sensors tell us about the human ships? Sir, they are using some kind of stealth technology. We cannot get clear readings on their weapons or defensive systems, but they appear to be much smaller than our vessels. Then we proceed as planned. But as the minutes ticked by, strange things began happening. Long-range sensors detected movement in the asteroid belt. Something was happening to the rocks floating in space. Dr. Alan Foster's voice suddenly filled the communication channels. The human scientist appeared on screens throughout the combined fleet. Gentlemen and ladies of the Council fleet, you seem to think that military strength is measured by the size of your ships. Allow me to demonstrate why that thinking is outdated. On the main view screen, Kredhas watched in horror as a large asteroid suddenly changed direction. It moved smoothly through space as if invisible hands were pushing it. Then another asteroid moved, then another. Gravity manipulation technology, Dr. Foster explained calmly. We can move objects through space without touching them. We can create gravity wells that trap ships. We can turn asteroids into weapons. We developed this technology because we knew someone would eventually try to bully us. The demonstration lasted only a few minutes, but it was enough. The combined fleet watched as humans casually moved mountains through space. If they could do that to asteroids, what could they do to warships? Admiral Kredhas felt sweat running down his gray skin. Dr. Foster, surely we can discuss this situation peacefully. The time for discussion was 2 months ago, Dr. Foster replied. You had your chance to treat us fairly. You chose force instead. Now you will learn why that was a mistake. Admiral Bell, Kredhas said desperately, I am prepared to negotiate. Your 30 minutes are up, Admiral Bell replied. What happened next would be remembered as the Battle of Sol, though it was really more of a massacre. The human ships moved through space like dancers, using gravity weapons that the Council had never seen before. Ships were crushed by artificial gravity fields. Others were thrown into each other by invisible forces. The combined fleet tried to fight back, but their weapons could not lock onto the human ships. Some kind of advanced shielding made targeting impossible. Meanwhile, human weapons tore through Council ships like paper. Admiral Kredhas watched his mighty fleet fall apart in 14 minutes. Ships were exploding all around him, Others were fleeing in panic. His communications officer was screaming damage reports from across the battle zone. "All ships, retreat," he finally ordered. Full retreat. The survivors of the combined fleet limped back to Council space, carrying news that would shake the galaxy. The humans were not primitives. They were not weak. They had technology that made the Council's weapons look like toys. And they had just proven that they would not be bullied by anyone. Back on Nexus Prime, Chairman Veltar received the battle reports in stunned silence. The greatest military force in galactic history had been defeated by 50 human ships. Everything the Council thought they knew about humans was wrong. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council faced an enemy they could not defeat. The age of human submission was over. News of the Council's defeat at Sol traveled across the galaxy faster than light. On every world, in every space station, aliens watched the battle recordings with shock and disbelief. The mighty combined fleet had been destroyed by just 50 human ships. Danny Clark, a reporter for the Human Independent Network, was broadcasting from New Geneva Station. His report was being watched by billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. The Battle of Sol lasted exactly 14 minutes. He said into the camera, 200 Council ships entered human space. Only 63 made it out. The rest were either destroyed or captured. This is the greatest military disaster in galactic history. On the Regelian homeworld, Trade Minister Vextel watched the broadcast with growing alarm. The Regelian Trade Union had supported the military action against humans. Now he was starting to think that it had been a terrible mistake. "Get me a secure channel to the human embassy," he told his aide. "We need to talk." "Sir, there is no human embassy. They cut all diplomatic ties, remember?" Vextel closed his 4 eyes in frustration. "Then find a way to contact them. We cannot afford to be on the wrong side of this conflict." Similar conversations were happening across the galaxy. The Centauri Federation called an emergency session of their parliament. The Tau Ceti Republic began withdrawing their ships from Council space. Dozens of smaller species started questioning whether the Council could protect them anymore. On Nexus Prime, Chairman Veltar faced the worst crisis of his long career. The Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives were shouting at each other in dozens of languages. Some demanded his resignation. Others wanted to declare war on humanity. Most just wanted to know what had gone wrong. "How did our intelligence fail so completely?" demanded the Andromedan delegate. "How did we not know about human military capabilities?" Veltar had been asking himself the same question. The answer came from an unexpected source. A young council clerk named Zarbith had been digging through old files. What she found made everyone's blood run cold. "Chairman, I have discovered something disturbing," she said, her voice shaking. "For the past 30 years, humans have been sharing their technology freely with council members. Medical advances, engineering techniques, agricultural methods. They gave us everything." The chamber fell silent. "But sir, we gave them nothing in return. All requests for alien technology were denied. All human scientists were excluded from joint research projects. We took their innovations and called them our own." Senator Quindle stood up slowly. His people were still dying from the plague, but now he understood why there was no cure. "You mean we stole from them? For 30 years, we stole from them and gave nothing back." The truth was spreading through the chamber like poison. The humans had not been holding back technology. They had been freely sharing while the Council had been deliberately excluding them. The betrayal was deeper than anyone had imagined. Lisa Rodriguez, now serving as Earth's Special Envoy, received her first official visitor 3 days after the battle. Senator Quindle arrived at New Geneva Station in a small, unmarked ship. He looked terrible. His blue skin was pale, and his forearms shook with exhaustion. "Ambassador Rodriguez," he said when they met in the station's diplomatic suite, "I come to beg for your help." Lisa studied his face. She had known Quindle for years. He had been one of the few council members who had treated humans with basic respect. "Senator, you know the rules have changed. Earth no longer deals with the council. If you want our help, you must be here as a representative of Altair, not as a council member." "I understand," he said quickly. "I am here as Senator of the Altair Republic. We formally withdraw from the Galactic Council as of today. We ask for direct diplomatic relations with Earth." Lisa felt a moment of satisfaction. "The first defection. What do you need, Senator?" "Medicine. Our children are dying. The plague is spreading faster than ever. We can offer technology sharing, mineral rights, anything you want. Just please help us." Within 6 hours, Dr. Rachel Green was leading a medical team to the Altair system. The human doctors worked around the clock, using advanced treatments that the Council had never seen. Within days, the plague was under control. The success on Altair made headlines across the galaxy. Other species began to take notice. If humans could cure a plague that had killed millions, what else could they do? On Kepler 442b, the Keplerians were still sitting in darkness. Their capital city had been without power for 3 months. Hospitals were running on emergency generators. The water treatment plants had shut down. The proud purple-skinned aliens were learning what it meant to depend on others. Their leader, Prime Minister Galseth, finally swallowed his pride and sent a message to Earth. "We request direct negotiations with the human government. We are prepared to discuss mutual cooperation agreements." Chief Engineer Paul Martinez arrived on Kepler 442b with a team of technicians. But this time, the humans came with conditions. "You want your power back?" Paul asked the Prime Minister. "Fine, but things will be different this time. We will teach your people how to maintain the reactors. We will share our engineering knowledge. In return, you will share your crystal fabrication technology with us." Prime Minister Galseth was shocked. "You want our technology? But you are the ones helping us." "That's the difference between us and the Council," Paul explained. "We believe in fair trade. You give us something, we give you something. Everyone benefits." The Kepler Agreement became the model for human diplomacy. Equal partnerships instead of master-servant relationships. Technology sharing instead of one-way exploitation. Respect instead of condescension. One by one, Council member species began breaking away. The Rigelian Trade Union signed a commerce agreement with Earth. The Centauri Federation established a joint research program. The Tau Ceti Republic opened their space to human exploration. Each defection weakened the Council further. Chairman Veltar watched his empire crumble as species chose human partnership over Council membership. The final blow came from an unexpected source. Reporter Danny Clark had been investigating the Council's classified files. What he found was explosive. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced in a galaxy-wide broadcast, "I have obtained classified Council documents that prove a deliberate conspiracy to suppress human development. For 30 years, Council leadership has been systematically stealing human innovations while denying humans access to alien technology. The documents showed everything. Secret meetings where Council leaders discussed keeping humans in their place. Orders to deny human requests for technology sharing. Plans to exploit human creativity while preventing human advancement. The scandal destroyed what remained of the Council's credibility. Species that had been hesitating now rushed to establish relations with Earth. The Council that had ruled the galaxy for 5 centuries was falling apart. On Earth, President Jig Murphy addressed the nation. "We never wanted to rule the galaxy," he said. "We only wanted to be treated as equals. The Council chose to see us as resources to be exploited, rather than partners to be respected. He paused, looking directly into the camera. Now they are learning what happens when you underestimate humanity. We will not be anyone's servants. We will not accept anyone's scraps. We are equals or we are enemies. The choice is theirs. Across the galaxy, the message was clear. The age of human submission was over. The age of human partnership had begun, and the old Galactic Council was dying, one defection at a time. 6 months after humanity left the Galactic Council, the old order was completely dead. Half of the Council's member species had either left or signed separate deals with Earth. The other half were arguing among themselves about what to do next. President Jake Murphy stood at the window of his office, looking out at the lights of Washington, D.C. His aide brought him the latest reports from across human space. The numbers were impressive. 47 species had asked for direct diplomatic relations with Earth. 23 had signed formal alliance agreements. The humans who had been called primitives 6 months ago were now the most sought-after partners in the galaxy. "Sir," his aide said, "the Altarian delegation is here for the Federation signing ceremony." Jake nodded and straightened his tie. Today was special. Today, they would officially create something new, something better than the Council had ever been. The ceremony took place on New Geneva Station, humanity's newest and largest orbital facility. The station was huge, with rotating sections that provided artificial gravity and docking bays that could handle ships from dozens of different species. Ambassador Lisa Rodriguez walked through the main corridor, watching delegates from across the galaxy arrive for the historic event. She saw Senator Quindle of Altair talking with Prime Minister Galsith of Kepler 442b. The Regalian trade representatives were comparing notes with Centauri scientists. Even some of the smaller species that had never been important in the old Council were here as equals. The main conference hall was packed. Unlike the old Council chamber with its hierarchy of seats, this room had a circular table where every delegate sat at the same level. No one species was more important than another. Lisa took her place at the table and looked around at the assembled beings. "Ladies, gentlemen, and honored delegates," she began, "we are here to create something that has never existed before. A galactic government based on equality, cooperation, and mutual respect." The Galactic Federation of Free Worlds Charter was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Instead of the Council's rigid hierarchy, the Federation was built on simple principles. Every member species had an equal vote. Technology would be shared freely among all members. Economic cooperation would benefit everyone, not just the powerful. "The Federation will not rule over its members," Lisa continued. "It will serve them. No species will be forced to give up their culture, their independence, or their dignity. We are partners, not subjects." One by one, the delegates signed the charter. Senator Quindle was first, representing the Altair Republic. Prime Minister Galseth signed for the Kepler Alliance. The Regalian Trade Union, the Centauri Federation, and dozens of others followed. Notably absent were the Hegemony, the Vorthik, and the other species that still clung to the old Council. They had refused to attend, calling the Federation a federation. A human plot to control the galaxy. "Let them believe what they want," President Murphy said when asked about the missing species. "The door is open if they change their minds." The signing ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Billions of beings watched as the new Federation was born. On worlds still controlled by the old Council, people saw something they had never imagined possible. A government that treated all species as equals. On Nexus Prime, former Chairman Veltar sat alone in his empty office. The Great Council chamber was nearly deserted now. Only a few dozen species still attended the sessions. and most of those were arguing about whether to surrender to human demands. He had spent his entire life building the Council's power. Now he watched it crumble while humans offered something better. The worst part was that he could not blame them. The Council had brought this on themselves through centuries of arrogance and corruption. A message appeared on his communication screen. It was from Lisa Rodriguez. "Chairman Veltar," the message said, "the Federation extends an invitation to the hegemony and all remaining council members. We believe every species deserves a voice in galactic affairs. The choice is yours." Veltar stared at the message for a long time. The humans were offering him a chance to save face, to join their federation as an equal partner instead of being conquered or left behind. Meanwhile, Admiral Nancy Bell was receiving new orders that excited her more than anything in her military career. The first joint human-alien exploration mission was being organized. The target was the Andromeda Contact Zone, where long-range sensors had detected signs of another galaxy-spanning civilization. "Captain Adams," she said to her former subordinate, who was now Admiral Adams, "you will command the joint expedition. 12 human ships, 8 Altarian vessels, 6 Centauri explorers, and representatives from 15 other species." "Steve." Adams smiled. "It will be an honor, Admiral. For the first time in galactic history, we will be exploring as equals." The expedition would launch in 3 months. Unlike the old Council exploration missions that were dominated by powerful species, this one would be truly cooperative. Every member would contribute their best technology and their brightest minds. Dr. Rachel Green was selected as the mission's chief scientist. She had become famous across the galaxy for curing the Alteran plague. Now she would help make first contact with an entirely new civilization. "The beauty of the Federation," she told reporters, "is that we are combining the best of every species. Human innovation, Altarian medical knowledge, Centauri engineering, Rigelian navigation skills. Together, we are stronger than any of us could be alone." Back on Earth, children in schools were learning about the new galactic order. They were taught that all intelligent beings deserved respect, regardless of their species or their planet of origin. They learned about cooperation instead of domination, partnership instead of exploitation. The old Galactic Council had been based on fear and hierarchy. The strong ruled the weak, and the weak accepted their place. The Federation was based on hope and equality. Every species had something valuable to contribute, and every contribution was respected. Not everyone accepted the new order. The Vorthic Empire launched raids against Federation shipping, trying to prove that humans were not as strong as they claimed. They learned quickly that attacking one Federation member meant fighting all of them. Human gravity weapons, Altarian shields, and Centaurian missiles working together proved too much for the raiders. The hegemony tried to create their own alliance to counter the Federation. But species that had tasted equality were not interested in returning to the old ways. One by one, the hegemony's allies abandoned them for Federation membership. In the end, even Chairman Veltar had to admit defeat. The hegemony joined the Federation as a junior member, accepting human leadership because they had no other choice. The transformation was complete. In less than a year, humans had gone from being ignored servants to being the most respected species in the galaxy. Not because they had conquered anyone, but because they had shown a better way to live together. As Captain Adams prepared for the Andromeda mission, he thought about how much had changed. 6 months ago, humans had been begging for basic fairness from the Council. Now they were leading a galactic government based on the principles they had always believed in. The galaxy would never be the same. And for the first time in centuries, that was a good thing. The age of human equality had begun, and the stars themselves seemed brighter because of it.